Hello, welcome to Presentations with Madison Fiddler Libby, the part of the show where Madison Fiddler Libby comes out and does a presentation. Today's presentation is on a group called Girls Not Brides. This group was started by a different group called the Elders, which were a group of global leaders that were independent, and they worked towards human and civil rights. And so what it is now, it's a global partnership of different entities working to end child marriage. They are an independent charity, so they focus a lot on donations, like that's how they receive their funding is through donations. And their mission is to end child marriage in one generation and give girls access to their universal rights. And so their big social issue is that they're working against is child marriage, but it also affects poverty, abuse, lack of education for girls, and girls who are robbed of their childhood. So meaning that they don't have real growth and they have early set stress, which can lead to depression and suicide. And so what they're doing to innovate and help the social issues, they're educating young men and women, because it's not just women that suffer from this, it's also young men too, but it's mostly young women. But they're educating young men and young women about the consequences of getting married at a super young age. They're also educating the parents, and they are promoting the idea of the worth of a girl. Because in a lot of these cultures, a girl is seen as just another mouth to feed, and and as a burden, and so they're married off at a young age a lot of the time. So what they're also doing with that is they're changing traditions, and so they're working with cultural and religious leaders to help community by community make it so that child marriage stops happening. And what they're also doing is they are encouraging at-risk families, families that are stuck in poverty, to have their girls continue going to school. And they help them do that by giving them these financial rewards at the end of the month. So that way their girl can they have some support from the family as well. They also help with enforcing minimum marriage age laws and developing legislation. So like helping create laws that strengthen the end of child marriage. And so the impacts that we have seen, so there was a report done by UNICEF that said that 25 million child marriages were averted in just the last decade. And there also has been quite a bit of a decline. By the numbers, it doesn't look huge, but it is still some good progress. Whereas in 1980, 1 in 3 girls was a child bride. Now it's only 1 in 5, so that's an 8% decline. And of course, in different countries, it like that decline rate is different everywhere. But the most of where it's happened has been in the Middle East and Sub-Saharan Africa, which I know Sub-Saharan Africa is where the problem has been the biggest. And here we have some charts about that decrease from 1985 until about 2010. And then we have another chart here that shows the big decreases in those countries where it's happening the most. That's from 1985 again to 2010. And then this is a chart about the child mortality rate falling because they've stopped child marriages in some areas. And so when a girl is married very young and she gets pregnant at a very young age, her child is more likely to die before they reach the age of 5. And so stopping child marriage helps stop the child mortality rate. And then another thing that has been happening with Girls Not Brides and these different entities that work with them, they are helping increase a sense of value for these girls. So for example, these 2 girls on the ends, they are with a group called Las Mariposas. And Las Mariposas, they work with Girls Not Brides, and they help these girls and they educate them. So this young lady over here, her sister was a child bride, but but she was able to see from that example, like that's not the best thing to do. And with Las Mariposas, she has been able to learn how to surf, and she's like a professional surfer now, and she also does aerial acrobatics. And so she has a dream to join Cirque du Soleil. And she knows that getting married at a young age it limits her ability to contribute to her community in that way. And this other girl here, um, she she has gained a deeper sense of her self-worth and has different specific goals for her life as well. And those wouldn't have been able, she wouldn't have been able to have those goals without Las Mariposas and Girls Not Brides. And then the girl in the middle here, this is an illustration that she did where she was a child bride, and she, with her family story, she was just another mouth to feed. So they married her off at a very early age to a very violent man who was often drinking alcohol. He was a raging alcoholic. And so she suffered a lot of abuse at his hands. And she ended up having a child. But later on, she was able to find a different group that was also working with Girls Not Brides. And it helped her find strength and self-worth. And I love this last thing that she said with her story. She says, "And one day I will marry someone who understands me, supports me, gives me the respect I deserve." So she still has hope. Like, she knows that she is someone who deserves respect and who deserves support, and that those things are available to her. These are the different countries that have been served by Girls Not Brides. Some of these you might look at and you think, wow, that's a bit surprising, like France, for example, the United Kingdom, the USA, Switzerland, lots of different places there. That's just to show you like how widespread the impact has been. And so some of the struggles that they've had, going back to fighting against the cultural traditions and changing the ideologies, is that lots of people, they're like, well, you can't just change a culture, like this is who these people are. But the foundation Girls Not Brides, they see that there are some traditions that are harmful and that are not good and that really should be stopped. And so they help, they talk to the cultural leaders, they talk to the religious leaders, and they tell them, hey, it's better for your community if we change these traditions. Like, it will help you get out of poverty, and it will help that death rate go down significantly, which, as you can see from the charts, it has. And another different struggle is that sometimes the young girls are not forced into it. Sometimes they do actually want it. And so that's where that educating comes in, where they work to educate them and tell them, like, no, if you get married at an early age, it's not good for you physically, nor is it good for you mentally. And they help them in that way. And then with the successes, I would just go back to the impact graphs. I feel like they really just say it all. And then some of my thoughts of what they can improve. When I was doing my research for this particular subject, they showed a lot of negative impact from child marriages happening, but it was harder to find positive impact from the ending of child marriages in different countries. And so I think that if they showed the more positive impact from the change that has been happening, then that shows that it is possible, and that I feel like that would help motivate a lot more people to join up. And then I feel like under skoll.org, that's skoll.org, they have a little page, and they have some ideas on how people can help donate, but it's a lot of just focusing on getting donations. But I would suggest giving more ideas for how people can contribute, like maybe helping people start up their own entities to work with Girls Not Brides in their own communities. And so I feel like that would help give more access to the people. And I feel like if they also made it more user friendly, because when I was looking at some of the different ideas that they had, there were some terms that were a bit difficult to understand. And so my ideas for how to help scale the impact to make the impact increase a bit is if they join with the church. I know that the Young Women's Program, they really focus a lot on self-value and personal worth. And also, I feel like receiving revelation, knowing that you're God's daughter, that is something that's helped me. I was raised in America with a great education system and great parents, but there were some times when I still felt like I didn't really have self-worth until I went into the Young Women's Program. That's where I was able to learn, like, no, I have something that I can contribute. So I feel like if they joined up with a church, that would help them a lot more with their cause. And then also the church is very widespread anyway, so they would be able to get the word out more. Then another idea of how they can scale their impact is if they make a movie about it, about their efforts and what's going on in the world today with child marriages. I know that Operation Underground Railroad did a movie back when I was in high school, and that was honestly the first time that I had ever heard of them. But since watching that, it has impacted me for the rest of my life until this day. So if they made a movie, I feel like it would be able to get the word out a little more easily, especially among American audiences. And also, it would help raise funds with the price of movie tickets. And so, those are my ideas with that. Here's the Works Cited page. And I hope you all enjoyed this presentation. Keep doing good in the world, and we'll see you later.